Welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment, where we continue to cover Bannerlord and tactics. Our channel is dedicated to it, and we are going to show another one of our 10 Minutes to Victory series today, an expedited episode in which we show another player's nightmare. Hundreds of Vlandian heavy horse and banner knights, right? We are going to fight them with our Battanian force. Now, I've given the Vlandians here a very strong army of mostly tier 4 and 5 units. They have a few tier 3s sprinkled in. The Sergeant, the Vlandian Sergeant, the tier 6 Bannerlord, the tier 5 Vanguard, and we're going to take them on outnumbered with a Battanian force of all tier 3 and tier 4 units. We're going to pass on the Fian champ and the Fian. We're not going to have either of those units, and we're going to have all lower level infantry, tier 3 and tier 4 infantry, and outnumbered we're going to take on this massive heavy horse army of Vlandia. Now I'm going to fight this in 2 different battles here for the episode. This episode might actually have 3 battles, as I may show you what happens if the captains are in charge. We're going to fight them on what I consider Vlandian's home turf, the Bogbeth Arch. This is a mountainous hilly terrain with some nice bottlenecks, and again 70% of their force is banner knights, well, banner knights and or very high level heavy cavalry. So the first battle here on Bogbeth with all these hills and ridges for us to bottleneck the enemy. Then we will fight on what I consider Vlandia's home turf, which is the fields of Pendraic. All right, so we're going to have 7 divisions in both of these battles. We're going to have the 7th Corps is going to be Jav cavalry. That's cavalry that have javelins. We have 2 archer divisions, the 4th and the 5th. A lot of guys are familiar by now with how I run this. The 4th tends to be the stronger archer division, and that's in case those guys need to charge. But I also have 2 archer divisions so they can have better angles and flank the enemy. The 3rd Corps is shock troops. I get that by selecting high tier preference and then selecting the 2 other infantry divisions with shields. We're going to put our captain in charge of the 3rd, and then we're going to zoom in here to make sure our infantry look correct, right? The 1st division is mostly spear infantry. The 3rd division should be mostly shock troops. You've got some falksmen in there. Of course, there's some guys with spears because we don't have the tier 5 falksmen for this battle. Finally, we'll look at the skirmishers here. These are the 6th Corps. Every single guy there has got a couple bags of javelins. Now, we're going to use the terrain in the first episode here. Of course, you might get attacked in Battania by Vlandia. In fact, you're almost certainly going to get attacked on this landscape. Let me show you how to destroy the enemy here. Ordinarily, this would be a no-win battle, right? We're facing, it'll probably be 100 plus banner knights, 100 plus vanguard, and other heavy cavalry. What we're going to do is we're going to slow down the enemy. We're going to clog up the areas where there's going to be a lot of cavalry. I have the 2nd Cav up there designed to clog them. This 1st infantry will also block towards the front. The 7th Jav Cav is just in the back to throw some javelins at the enemy. And then, of course, we have our shock division. Our 3rd division will be key in this battle. The 1st Corps I can jam right in that little access there between those 2 cliffs, and that's going to make it harder for the enemy to get through there. But these guys are going to do work. These guys and the archers are going to be the guys that help us, if we can win this battle. You can see there we're outnumbered, not dramatically, but we are outnumbered in this battle. And look at the banner knights, 123 banner knights and 120 plus vanguard. Their other highest level cavalry. So ordinarily this would be a slaughter, right? We would get trucked and overwhelmed. The key is we're uphill. The key is we're forcing the enemy into a narrow defile. These guys here are basically holding that right flank in a shield wall. That cav there is strictly there to slow down the enemy, to bottle them up. And now we're going to bring our 3rd Corps down there and start to commence the slaughter. Over here, I'm going to jam the 1st division into a square, into that small little crack, making it harder for more of their cavalry to get here. The 3rd infantry, rather, these shock troops arrive on scene and are told to charge, right? These guys now launch into battle. All of these stood-up banner knights are going to have a very bad day, right? Falksmen and other nasty infantry plowing them while they're being shot. Over here, the skirmishers are working. You can see the squares being swarmed. We'll actually pull the square back so that all these javelin throwers have a target. Right now, there's all these different infantry and Vlandian cavalry attacking this square, and all of those units are getting pounded with arrows and javelins. And the screen says it all, right? The upper right there, that's the death spam, is 80% green, even though we have far inferior troops here. This would be like if early on in your campaign as Battania, you were attacked by Dirthert and his monstrous force of nobles, and doom seemed to be the outcome for you. You follow these tactics and look at the upper right-hand corner, right? It's a fucking massacre, all right, but it's Vlandia that's getting massacred here. We enjoy a sunrise here as their troops just are sent fleeing. In fact, it looks like the battle's already over. The enemy is fleeing, you've won the battle, and that was even more successful than I expected, right? I expected this to be a close battle with no elite troops, no Battanian fiends, no Battanian fiend champions at all, and we completely floored the Vlandians. I mean, that is amazing. Almost 80% survival rate in this battle. Against 700 or against 70% elite heavy cavalry. Now we'll fight on their home territory. Again, I'm trying to make these episodes expedited. This, again, will probably be a 10, 11-minute battle. You'll have to forgive me. Anybody with a stopwatch, you're welcome to stop watching at 9 minutes and 57 seconds. More than likely, if you watch for 9 minutes and 57 seconds, you will still benefit, right? These battles are condensed, but I'm still offering, I think, a lot of help for players out there to deal with these various different situations. We've already covered Khazate. I covered the Empire in a larger series, and now we're covering Battanian's main rival here. And don't worry, you Vlandian friends, we will cover how do you deal with a bunch of Battanian fiends with Vlandia. All right, so we're going to use the terrain here in this second battle. Even though we're in this wide open plain, if you look closely at the terrain, there's little tiny things that give you an advantage. These rocks here will slow down the cav. These smatterings of little trees are still things for heavy cav to run into and get bottled up. That is the key. Just like the Khazate battle we had, the previous episode, the key is to slow down the enemy heavy cavalry, make them either moving slowly or stopped. They're doing less damage in that way, and of course then they're much easier to shoot at, to throw javelins at, etc. A banner knight running at full speed is a very difficult target and is a very deadly being. All right, again, you see the two different archer corps and notice the gap between them. This is an imperative part of this strategy. That means if one of these divisions is getting swarmed with cavalry, the other one is probably free, firing away on the horses that are attacking your other archer division. If you have one archer division, you're very likely being overwhelmed, and most of your archers are frantically running around trying to shoot. Again, you can see we're outnumbered and no elite troops. We have about 20 tier 5 troops, and the enemy has like 300 tier 5 troops. We got a beautiful sunrise here, or sunset, on the Pendraic field. And again, what we're going to do is very simple. Strategically, this first division will square. I will probably put it out there towards the enemy because I want the cav to attack it. If there's infantry out front, a lot of times their cav will charge it. Over here we have the 7th Jav Cav. These guys I'm going to move in and tighten just a little bit. Sometimes you'll make last second changes. Don't make changes though right before the charge. Make sure that you have time for your men to get situated before the enemy arrives. Over here between those rocks and those cavalry, pretty confident the enemy's going to be slowed down. In fact, I promised to do this. We'll do this. We'll use the RTS camera for this episode. So you can see what's coming in. We will slow down their cav as it comes in. Now, my 3rd division is probably too far away. Again, just like that first battle, I will move it. Don't be afraid to move your units around mid-battle if it doesn't look quite appropriate. Not your archers, but your infantry especially. Yeah, see, they're actually going around those rocks there because the AI understands it can't charge through there. So we'll bring our 3rd infantry, these shock troops, towards the center. You can see those guys rushing over. Those guys are all foaming at the mouth. They can't wait to be unleashed on these nasty Battanians, right? These fucking scum Battanians. They're told to charge. The 1st is in a square here, standing up a lot of the cavalry, and it's a traffic jam. Again, you've got cavalry all over the place. Most of them are standing still, and they're rendered useless by their lack of movement, right? They're being shot off their horses. These archers are working. In fact, these archers are actually, their greatest difficulty is all of the now riderless horses that are running them over. The skirmishers can be told to charge as well. I like to have them stand still at the beginning of the battle. First 30 seconds, they throw a bunch of javelins. And then once maybe 30 seconds or so passes, I will charge with them as well. And the reason I do that is because if they're out of javelins, you want them, of course, using their little pitiful weapon. All All right, so all the units charge here. We speed this up in a hurry because I know you're in a hurry. I'm speaking as fast as I can. Hopefully you can understand me. You can always hit the speed button on the bottom lower left there, or lower right there, and it will slow down my voice and make me sound drunk. Of course, most of the time I will use the same cadence, so if you are messing with the speed there and you can't quite understand what I'm saying a lot in a short period of time, that'll certainly help you. Now, not as dramatic as the first battle, of course, because we don't have the same terrain advantages, but this is victory. This is not just victory. This is a wild victory against a Vlandian force with clearly superior troops, and our guys get to celebrate and cheer at the sunset at the end of the day. Look at these raggedy guys. None of these are Fian champs. I didn't pull the wool over your eye and sneak, eyes and sneak in a bunch of Fian champs for this episode. This is tier 3 and tier 4 archers with their raggedy sheepskin fucking armor and stuff like that. And these banner knights got utterly destroyed. These banner knights got, it looks like 50 kills, and 123 of them were sent packing, either fleeing or killed into the dirt. You can see actually our low-level archers did most of the best work here. All right, like I said, it's going to be about a 12-minute episode. Of course, you're certainly welcome to X out at this stage. The majority of my message, my tactical instruction, has been delivered at this state. I'm going to continue to speak quickly here because now we're going to use the RTS overhead and watch the dipshit sergeant take control. I'm fond of doing this because I think it continues to illustrate how unfortunate it is that some people are still using sergeants in control, right? And of course, if you have a small army and you're a mercenary, you have no choice but to watch this happening. Watch this happen. Our plan is to form a defensive ring around our ranged troops. We will hover near the queen here, or whatever you want to call her, the commanderess of this battle, and we will see what occurs here. I gotta tell you, I'm not comfortable already with what's going on, right? They're forming this very tight ring. That means a lot of our archers can't shoot. Our javelin guys are going to be jammed in with infantry where they can't throw javelins. In fact, I'm nervous, but so is the commander. She's shifting around repeatedly as if she expects bad things to happen. And you could just tell, looking at this horrendous formation, that bad things definitely are going to happen. You think these archers can shoot? Right? If you're a mercenary and you're in this stage, you really want to develop as much money as you can, become a vassal, and then form your own kingdom. So we've got a little cinematic scene here as the Vlandian banner knights pour in. Now the ring, initially will do a decent job because there's spears hitting banner knights and whatnot. That didn't just overwhelm the square. But this Battanian force has no ability to output damage here. The Vlandians are charging around, rampaging. Meanwhile, the Battanians are just in a death ball. Essentially asking to be piled up right where they stand, right? This could be a mass grave. It almost looks like a Vlandian donut there with Battanian forces being swallowed up. Occasionally, these little sharpshooters and whatnot out here are shooting at him, but this is a no-win situation. So please don't use the sergeants. I know, of course, a lot of you don't use the sergeants, but this is, our plan is to remain defensive. Defensive, all right. Our plan is to remain suicidal. That should change. In fact, I would love to get a hold of the engine code here and change some of the AI, because AI in Bannerlord oftentimes really does stand for artificial imbecility. So you can see here the exact same army composition that we just completely destroyed the Vlandians in 2 consecutive battles. Now she charges. Now that there's like 12 Battanians left, charge. This stupid bitch. I'm not sexist. I would say this stupid fuck if it was a guy, but what a disgraceful attempt here by the AI. All right, so we're going to wrap this episode up. Of course, you want to subscribe. Please comment, hit like. I appreciate all that stuff, fellas. And I will see you guys next time.